Sound check 1 2. We are in. Make sure everything is where it's supposed to be here. Position on. Good. This is good. Let's see. Edit here. Yeah, we're good. Nice. So we're good over on YouTube. Good morning. Rumble X, LinkedIn, Facebook. Good morning. Let me get my live started over here. Good morning over there on Instagram. Good morning to folks over on TikTok. Mute this. There we go. Okay, so let's get this pinned and then we'll get started. Hope everybody had a great Christmas and is enjoying your holiday season, whatever holidays you are celebrating or not celebrating. I know a bunch of you are on vacation. Shout out to the people who are taking vacation. Shout out to the people who are still working. Despite the fact that everybody else is on vacation, this is the time when you can separate yourself and create a gap between you and everyone else who is vacationing and chilling over this week, specifically this period between Christmas and New Year's Day. A lot of people do a whole bunch of nothing during this time period. This is your time to get ahead, or if they're ahead of you, this is your chance to catch up. So all that said, the topic here today is how lawfare works. Now, some of you may not even be familiar with this term, lawfare, because it's a relatively new term, even to me. I had not really heard of this term, lawfare, until I didn't really start hearing about lawfare until really like earlier this year. It was the first time I heard anybody using the word was earlier this year, specifically when it was being used against Donald Trump. And I went, and when I first heard it, I immediately knew what it meant. I immediately got it as soon as I heard the term lawfare. I heard of warfare. Warfare is, we know what warfare is. That's when people use guns and tanks and bombs to try to physically defeat their opposition. And then you get lawfare. When I heard lawfare, I immediately knew what it meant because they were talking about Donald Trump. We know what they did to Donald Trump. They used the legal system to go after him because I guess they couldn't physically attack him. So they said, let's do it in a legal way or a judicial way. And I'm looking at the definition of the word. It says the use of international law to attack or condemn a rival country. And that's the only definition that is given. Let me see what Wikipedia says. Wikipedia says lawfare is the use of legal systems and institutions to damage or delegitimize an opponent or to deter an individual's uses of their legal rights. The term may refer to the use of legal systems and principles against an enemy, such as by damaging or delegitimizing them, wasting their time and money, or winning a public relations victory. Alternatively, it may describe a tactic used by repressive regimes to label and discourage civil society or individuals from claiming their legal rights via national or international legal systems. That's a pretty good definition. So Wikipedia gives a better definition than the dictionary when it comes to lawfare. I don't know if this term just came around this year or if it was always around, but I hadn't heard of it before. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to go into what lawfare is, how it happens, how it starts, how it gets used against you, and all of you are going to understand why you need to understand this, because even though it may not be being used against you right now, it may get used against people who you like, listen to, or support. And it may even get used against somebody who you don't like. And you need to understand what it is and why it's being used the way that it does get used, because the better you understand what's happening, the better you'll be able to make sense of what you're seeing and hearing. Even if the lawfare is being used against somebody that you don't like Donald Trump, we're going to be using as an example here because he was the person against whom lawfare was used the most to basically delegitimize him and basically deplatform him and stop him from having a chance of doing what he did anyway, which is first running and then winning the election in 2024. But even if it's somebody that you don't like, let's say some of you listening to this are not fans of Donald Trump, you should still understand how the lawfare is being used, because it's one thing when you're cheering for it because it's being used against somebody that you don't like. But if they could do it against somebody who you don't like, who has a certain amount of status and power and prestige, well, what do you think they could do to you if you don't have that person's same level of status, power, and prestige? They could do it to you even more easily than they did it to him. So this is what I told people back in 2021 when Donald Trump got kicked off of all the social media platforms on January the 7th. So after January 6th, and people claimed that he was inciting an overthrow of the government and an insurrection. You remember all that nonsense. The next day, all the social media platforms coordinated to kick him off. And people who don't like Donald Trump were celebrating this, like, yeah, he's a bad guy. They should kick him off. I warned people back then, the same thing that I would warn you now, that if they could kick him off, what do you think they can do to you? And he has, again, he was the president at that time, sitting president. He has status, he has power, he is publicly noted for having money. He has all of these things. He has all these followers and all these fans, and they kicked him off in a coordinated move. What do you think they would do to you? So you shouldn't be so excited about them doing that to him, because they could do it to you much more easily. And there would be no uproar. There would be no public outcry defending you if they did it to you, because you may not be as known as he is. But anyway, let's get into our points here today. Before I do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete, author of 35 books, and 4 TEDx talks. I created this brand, this company that is called Work on Your Game. What we do here is we help people get to the top 2% of what you do, whether you're in sales, whether that's with your mindset, whether it is in your business, whether you are just starting your business, whether you're an athlete, whether you are transitioning from the government, the military, a corporate career, professional career, or a sports career into starting a business. These are the type of people who we work with, and we're looking for ambitious individuals. You want to be in the top 2% of what you do, you have to have some level of ambition to do that. Those are the people we work with. You can learn more about that and me at workonyourgameuniversity.com. And we got a bunch of other websites, but we'll just give you one, workonyourgameuniversity.com, the most important one. And it's a pretty simple site. You can see exactly what we're doing, who we're working with, and who we're for, and you can take the next step if you are so inclined. So let's get into this, how lawfare works. So the first thing that happens when if lawfare ends up being targeted at you, the first thing happens is you have to piss somebody off. You have to piss off the powers that be. This is where lawfare starts, by pissing somebody off. Now, pissing people off, what I mean is people who actually have the power to use this stuff against you. So I don't mean pissing off your next door neighbor. Pissing off somebody who actually has the power to do something against you, such as the government. They have the power to do something against you if they want to. They probably, because we're in a civilized society, generally, I'm not going to say this is 100% the case, but generally they're not going to come after you with, again, guns and tanks and try to physically hurt you. But they will, the first thing they're going to do is have you on their radar because you said something that they don't like. And the thing is, the way the government operates is that they may have you or me or somebody else on their radar already. You just don't know that you're on their radar because, again, if they're going to come at you, they surprise you. The element of surprise matters a lot when it comes to any type of combat. You don't want to tell people what you're about to do. You don't want to telegraph your moves. Just like if you're a fighter, MMA fighter, or a boxer, you're not going to telegraph to your opponent that you're about to punch them in the face. Or you want to surprise them with the punch so that they can't defend themselves for it. It's the same thing that a power that be, let's just say a government, for example, would use against you. So they know they're going to come at you because you pissed them off, or they know they're going to come at you because you pissed them off sometime in the past, but they wait for the right moment to use it against you. So the first step is you saying or doing things that makes the powers that be a little bit disturbed and you get on their radar. Now, why does this matter? And why is this an important point? This is an important point because over the last 5 years, I think everyone who's listening to this, especially if you live in the United States, we have all seen and experienced some things that the powers that be, the government, whichever regime has done that you were not a fan of. Now, the things that Donald Trump did when he was in power, he usually got blowback from people who are already in politics who are allegedly, ostensibly defending you by going against Donald Trump, right? We saw that stuff. And I'm going to answer all questions and comments at the end, by the way. So if you have a question or comment, I'll get to it when I'm done. So the people who didn't like anything Donald Trump said or did would immediately give blowback to him. The problem is that the other side, the Democratic side, when they do something that people disagree with, there's not a whole lot of loud backlash, is not immediate backlash. And if you offer some backlash, then you get you have been labeled negatively, like, oh, well, you must just be a Republican or a Trump supporter, or you're MAGA, or you're just too dumb to understand that they're trying to do things to help us. And this is what's taken place in America over the last, especially over the last 5 years, but it's actually been over the last 25 years, is that if you are supporting, specifically since Donald Trump's coming around, though, if you're supporting Donald Trump or the Republican side, then there's clearly something wrong with you morally. There's something wrong with you mentally. There's just something wrong with you integrity-wise as a person for you to support such a terrible individual. But if you're supporting the Democratic side, then that means you're trying to help everybody. You're trying to unify. You're trying to bring everybody together. You're all about helping everyone at once and not just being about yourself and your quote unquote billionaire friends. This is the way that they've created this idea that has been planted in a whole bunch of people's minds. The problem with this idea is that if you were to be speaking out against a regime, let's just say the Democratic side, then that's the group that you could piss off, and there's no immediate blowback to anything that they say or do. So if you remember so this is after Joe Biden became president. I believe it was the end of the year in 2021. So it was around this time, 2021. So about 3 years ago, the White House put out a statement that they said anybody who is not taking the jab for that virus that was out there, anyone who's not taking the jab, this is going to be a cold, bitter winter of destruction and death for those people. Y'all remember that statement? Any of y'all remember that statement the White House put out? And Joe Biden's in control of the White House, so he had to approve that statement for the White House to put a statement out. They said it's going to be a winter of death and despair for anyone who is not taking the jab. This was in late 2021. Does anybody remember that statement? Now, let's say Donald Trump would put something like that out there. What kind of response would the general public have given to that? They would have been, the people who don't like him would have gone against and just trashed everything that he said and used it as a referendum for why he's a bad guy. The White House put that statement out, and yeah, there were people who ridiculed it and pushed back against it. But generally, when it came just to the mainstream response, the zeitgeist response, there wasn't any response. If people responded, they were co-signing it. Like, yeah, anybody who doesn't take the jab, you're bad, you're stupid, you're going to kill grandma. You're doing all the wrong things if you're not taking the jab. The point I'm making here in this first point is that pissing them off depends on who is the group in power. And is there anyone else pushing back against them? If you're in the minority pushing back against a group that has power, then you could possibly be putting yourself on the radar for possible lawfare sometime in the future, because you're one of the few who is going against the grain. Because see, if everybody goes against the grain, whatever the grain is, then they can't do lawfare against everybody. But see, if there's only a handful of people doing it, they can use lawfare against a handful of people. Y'all understand what we're saying here? This is the reason why the people who showed up in DC on January 6, 2021, it was not a big enough group that they couldn't do something, but it wasn't a super small group either. And this is the reason why it ended up becoming a story. The thing is, there was a large population of people who believed what Donald Trump claimed, which was that the election was not done properly in 2020. There was some shenanigans. What do I believe? I believe there were shenanigans in the 2020 election. Will we ever know what really happened? Probably not. We probably won't know whatever really happened until both people who were involved in it are probably being long gone by the time we find out what really happened in that election. And history is a story. We never really know what's true. We just know what people tell us. And there's always different versions of stories. But the number of people who showed up in DC on January 6th were showing up as a mass of people saying, we don't agree with what's going on here. And what the government did, because they now were in power, because they had allegedly won the 2020 election, now they were able to use lawfare. It was what they did. They used lawfare against all those people who showed up in DC on January 6th. And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to do a whole live on this, literally on January 6th. But there were a bunch of people who showed up there who I know of who didn't do anything. They didn't go into buildings. They didn't break past barriers. They didn't attack anybody. They never trespassed anywhere. They still got visited by the federal agents. Meaning, let's say you went to DC on January 6th and you went to the speech that Trump gave and you marched down to the Capitol. All of these are completely legal things. And then you went home. You didn't break in anything. You didn't beat up anybody. You didn't go in any buildings. The FBI still came and visited your home and just knocked on your door and again, what is it? That's an intimidation tactic. It's just an intimidation tactic to let you know, hey, here's who we are. We're the FBI. We're knocking on your door to let you know that we know that you were there in DC. And again, not to arrest you, not to charge you with anything, just to let you know that they're there. All right, that's a form of, it's an intimidation tactic, is a form of lawfare. And then you have all the people who actually ended up getting charged with crimes. And y'all should read up on what happened with a lot of those people, because they gave a lot of big sentences to a whole lot of people based on what happened on January 6th. And Donald Trump has said that he's probably on his first day, one of the first things he wants to do is start pardoning those people from that date. But we'll talk about that at a later date. First step of lawfare is that you piss off the wrong people who happen to have a certain amount of power at a certain time. And another reason why this is important is because Donald Trump had lawfare used against him. He was the president of the United States of America. So again, if you don't have his status, his power, or his reach, and you piss off the people in power, what do you think they can do to you? If they can do it to him, he's the president. If they could kick him off all the social media, he's the president. What do you think they can do to you if your message starts to piss off the wrong people too loudly, too often, and it's too effective to where it's getting other people to actually start listening to you? So you think about, and thanks for the people helping me hit the goals over on TikTok with the gifts. You think about other folks who've had the same thing happen. The bald-headed guy who used to be a kickboxer who lives outside the United States, whose name I can't say on TikTok. All right, that guy had it happen. Russell Brand's another guy who's had it happen. And there are others out there, and their names aren't as known, but these people get this used against them because, again, people are a little bit more civilized these days. We're not going to come and chop your head off. What we're going to do is try to chop you off at the knees or at the neck by using the legal system against you. So the next thing that happens, this is the second point when it comes to lawfare, is that they create some type of charge against you. Again, look at the people whose names that I just said. Let's just use two, who all of you know who they are. So let's just use Donald Trump. Everybody knows who he is. You saw what happened to him. And then let's use the bald-headed guy who got kicked off all social media, who used to be a kickboxer. Everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say that, right? That guy, initials are A.T., that guy. All right, look what they did. So with Donald Trump, what they did is he got 4 charges. He got the sexual assault case in New York. He got the alleged fraud case in New York. And these are both civil cases. Then lawsuits. Then he got the RICO case down in the state of Georgia, which is falling apart as we speak. That case is going to be dead. And then he got the documents case down in Florida. All 4 of these cases ended up falling apart. But in the moment when he had all 4 cases at the same time, did you hear what people were saying? They're like, all right, here's proof that he's a bad guy. All right, this is how lawfare works. This is the part that I want y'all to understand. And look at this as well, a parallel with the guy, A.T., whose name that I'm not saying. When he got those charges again, first he got kicked off all social media, then they came with the charge, or whichever one, I don't know which one came first, but they both happened pretty close to each other, right? The charge with that guy, A.T., was that he did some type of sexual deviance. So you notice that with men, especially men who have any type of status or power, one of the number one ways that they attack you is with some type of sexual charge, something that you did to a woman that was wrong years ago, and is all hearsay. Somebody claimed that you did this, or they claim that somebody claimed that you did it, and now your name is stained, and because a whole bunch of people are going to buy into it. Oh, here's a man who has power and status and money, and he violated a woman's rights in a physical way some time ago. There's no actual proof of it. And there are a bunch of people who are going to believe that and always believe it about you, no matter what happens, even if you clear your name later on. Is this true? What do people say about Donald Trump to this very day? He's the R word, right? What do people say about that guy, A.T., who, if they don't like him, oh, he's a misogynist. So he's a assaulter. He did this, he did that, right? That's what people say about it. It's something that has to do with the way that he deals with women. All right, that's the bottom line, like the morality clause. So we call this is the appeal to morality, which is when you judge another person by saying that, well, they're morally wrong because they did this morally wrong thing, regardless of what is logically true, regardless of what is objectively proven. This person is morally wrong because Donald Trump's morally wrong because he R-worded that woman back in the day. I believe that charge was complete bullshit, but this is what has been established. This guy, A.T., he's R-worded or he did something negative with women back in the day. So it's the morality plea. Because see, the morality plea supersedes anything logical or objective. This is the reason why people use it. This is the reason why it's so popular. It's so popular to use morality against another person because it again, it cancels out anything that can be logically proven or logically disproven. So if you say logically, well, this person it was convicted, not convicted, excuse me, charged with a criminal crime, a crime that would make him a criminal, but then they clear their name from the legal system, you can still use the morality clause above and beyond that and say, well, this person's still a bad person because they got charged with it. So it must mean they must have did something. All right, that's what they do with Trump. That's what they do with a lot of men who are in positions of power. They did it with Russell Brand as well. So they create a charge against you, usually with men. It has something to do with sexual activity. And again, look around, you'll notice this. Usually with men, when they're using lawfare against you, it's some type of sexual activity charge because the other things are too logical and they're too rational of a charge that if it gets knocked down, then you have nothing left. But the morality piece sticks with somebody even if they can't prove it. So the guy, the bald-headed kickboxer, they cleared, his name has pretty much been completely cleared. They dropped the charge. They don't have anything left with the charge, but there's a whole bunch of people who still will never like this guy because, oh, well, he has these poor morals when it comes to women. Now, y'all notice that? Everybody noticing this? This is what they do. Same thing with Donald Trump. So you notice that people aren't really talking anymore about the fraud. They're not talking about the documents. They're not talking about he tried to steal the election. I mean, they are, but they're not. The number one thing that's going to keep getting used against him forever, even when he's long gone, is that R word, the sexual assault. Because again, the morality piece, and this allows people to moralize over other people. Oh, you're just a bad person. All right, yeah, you won the election twice, maybe 3 times, but you're a bad person. Yeah, your name got cleared in court because the charges got dropped on you, AT. And yes, you have become successful. And yes, you've inspired a whole bunch of young men and older men to get better, but you're still a bad person because of this charge that we got against you. So what it does is it stains your name. This is the point of lawfare. The point of lawfare is if they want to basically get you losing a bunch of lawsuits and have to spend a bunch of money and spend all your money on lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. But the main point of lawfare, folks, is not to put you in jail necessarily. The main point of lawfare is not necessarily to get you to spend all your money defending yourself in court. It is, but it's not the main point. The main point is to completely delegitimize and destabilize your status and your power and your reputation amongst the populace of people. That's the real point of it. It's to stain your name so that your name doesn't have the same value that it had before. And what that does when you stain a person's name is it gives people, first of all, a license to not listen to what you say. It gives people license to ban and block your message from being put out there anywhere, such as getting kicked off all social media platforms, like that guy that I'm talking about. He got kicked off all social media. And why? Based on the premise that he's such a bad guy that we can't allow this guy's message to come out. It's harmful content for his message to come out. So that premise gives everybody else a license to say, well, we don't have to, you can't talk about this guy. All right. His name can't be mentioned. And this is what a lot of platforms did when it came to certain people when they're under this lawfare. And what it also does is, let's just say you have a fan base. Let's say you have 1,000 people in your fan base, right? And then they do lawfare against you. And you're a man and they come out with some moral charge against you, like you did something bad to women. Now what happens? Now half of your fan base, let's say your fan base is all men. You're a male, half of your fan base is men. And we can use this kickboxer guy as an example because he's a perfect example of this. Let's say you got 1,000 fans, all males, and they're listening to him and they like what he says. Then they come out with this charge against him that he did something that is morally wrong against women. What it's going to do is it's going to cause, let's just say, half of his fan base, males, to be told, well, hey, I know you like that guy, but look at this terrible moral thing that he did. What it does is it erodes the aim is for it to erode the trust that people in your audience have in you so that your power and your influence is lessened. That's the whole point. They're basically trying to silence you, and they're just using the legal system as a pretext. They're using it as a front for what they really want to do, which is take away your voice and stop your ability to be able to influence and persuade people to think in a certain way. Now, did this work? It did in some ways, and in other ways it didn't work, because there are some people who say, okay, I'm not going to listen to this person anymore because they were a surface level fan. I can't listen to them anymore because it's a bad thing that I heard. But then there are people who are more deeply entrenched in being fans, and they say, I'm going to listen to them even more. Again, you saw this with Donald Trump. There are people who are hardcore Trump fans who went harder for Trump after the things they did to him. And there are people who were surface level Trump fans who said, I can't mess with Trump anymore because of this thing. All the charges that came against him. So basically what it does is it divides your base, but the people who stay in your base are the people who are your staunchest and most hardcore supporters. And if you have enough of them and they are strong enough, then the lawfare ends up backfiring. But we're going to get to that in a minute. Next thing they do, we're talking how lawfare works. Now, if they have a charge against you, especially if it's some form of criminal charge, usually they come with some form of criminal charge. You haven't gone to court yet. You haven't been convicted yet. But if they have a criminal charge against you and it's an egregious enough charge, you know what they do next? And you know what they do? They come knock on your door. And when they knock on your door, now they got to go search and seize in your house because they got to get all the documents and the stuff that they need to check and find out if you did indeed commit a crime, just because they charge you with one. That's the next thing that they do. So if they claim that you committed a crime, now they can come to your house, come into your house, basically turn everything upside down in your house because they're looking for quote unquote evidence of this crime that you have been suspected of. Again, you have not even gone to court yet. You haven't even had a court date yet. You haven't even called your lawyer yet. You haven't appeared in front of a judge or a jury yet. They can come to your house and seize your stuff because their goal is to get evidence of this crime that you allegedly have committed. And again, all they need is a little bit of corroborating information to use against you. I was just explaining this the other day when I was talking about Puff Daddy the other day, the P. Diddy case, is that as soon as they got something corroborating, again, evidence, not proof, but evidence, now they have enough that we can go raid P. Diddy's house and we can take all the stuff out of his house that we want to take out of his house. Now we can go raid Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort or whatever he calls that place that he has down here in South Florida. Now we can go raid that kickboxer's house and we can take his cars and freeze the bank accounts. And see, this is the thing, that when they do this, they take your cars, they take your computers, they freeze your bank accounts. Now, why does this matter? Why do these things matter? Because if you just got charged with a crime, let's say the cops came and knocked on your door, charged you with a crime, and then they take you to jail because you have been charged with, again, you didn't see the judge yet, but you've been charged with a crime. They take you to jail. What's the first thing you want to do? You want to call your lawyer. Now, here's the problem. They just froze your bank accounts. So how are you going to pay the lawyer? You see, this is the whole point. They just froze your bank accounts. And the purpose of them freezing your bank accounts is ostensibly, this is the official reason, is that they don't want you to have resources that you could possibly use to basically circumvent the legal system, circumvent the legal process. So they freeze your bank accounts. And their whole concept is, well, hey, the justice system is blind and justice is blind. So if you are innocent, then you don't need money for that. All you need is just go in front of a judge and prove your case in front of a judge and a jury. But see, if they freeze your bank accounts, you can't afford a lawyer. In the United States of America and in many other countries as well, your freedom, your innocence or guilt is not based on whether you're actually innocent or guilty. It's based on, can you afford to prove your point? And if you can't access your own money because they froze your bank accounts or they seized your cash, then what do? Or for many people, the answer is you don't do anything because you ain't got no resources. That's the whole point. And now they got you as a sitting duck with what? A public defender. And now they're bringing the entire State Department's resources against you with a public defender. What chance do you have of winning? This is what they do. This is what they do. This part right here. And the reason why this matters for all of you is not just because of these known names that I'm saying, that any of you happens to have an idea or an opinion that goes against the grain, they could do this to you. The saving grace that you have, there's a couple things. First of all, you had resources in other places to where even if they seize your stuff that they know about, you can still get resources from other places. That's one. Secondly, is that if there are enough brave people who step forward and objectively say, hey, what the powers that be are doing is bullshit, then they can't use lawfare against individuals because there are too many individuals. But see, if most people are fucking cowards and there's only a few people who are keeping it real, then they can use lawfare against the people who are keeping it real because all the cowards are too cowardly to say anything. And that's the position that we're in right now in the United States, especially in Western society. In the Western world, this is what's happening right now. You got a whole lot of people who look at things and know that it's bullshit, but won't say anything because they're afraid. And then the few people who will say something, they get singled out and attacked because they're saying something, not because they're saying something that crazy. Many people agree with what they're saying, but many people don't want to step up to the front line and say it because they don't want to deal with what we see happening with other people who have decided to have some balls. This is the world that we're in right now. And one of the biggest challenges we have in society these days is we got a lot of men with no balls. We got a lot of emasculated, no balls having men. And I'm speaking specifically about men because it's not the woman's job to be on the front line. All right, if we got invaded by a foreign enemy in the United States and they started coming into our cities and attacking, no one's expecting women to go stand on the front lines and put their lives on the line. We're expecting men to do that. And we need men to do that societally in a civilized way right now against the nonsense that's happening in the United States of America, even. But a whole lot of men being, again, not having enough balls to do this is contributing to the problem. But let me continue. So as I just said, they raid your home, they take all your assets. So now you don't have the assets to defend yourself. And I'm going to answer questions and comments at the end, by the way. So if you have a comment, I'm going to get to it when I get done these points. So after they raided your house, the next thing they do is they go to all the businesses you deal with and they pressure the businesses to cancel you. They pressure the businesses to not do business with you anymore. So they'll go to social media, they'll go to YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and say, hey, did y'all know that Dre is this bad guy who did ABC and he's been charged with these 10 crimes? How can y'all allow him to have a platform? How can you allow him to have a profile on your platform when he's done these bad things? So what they do is put pressure on these companies, and then the companies all decide at the same time, miraculously, to kick you off the platform. So now you get kicked off all the social media. So now you've been banned from social media. It's not like they deleted your account. That's one thing. Getting your account deleted or hacked is one thing because you can create a new account. Getting banned from the platform means you can't create any new accounts. You're completely banned. You can never use the account. You can never use the platform ever again. That's the next thing they do. Then they go to all the companies that you work with. Forget about social media. Social media is just free, basically entertainment. Then they go to companies you do business with and they say, well, hey, what's the company? Hey, Square, who takes payments. We know that Dre sells stuff on the internet and he does all his transactions through Square or PayPal or Cash App. Hey, Cash App, you can't allow Dre to use your platform, can you? Because look at these terrible things that have been done to him. So now Cash App bans me from using Cash App. Now I can't use Venmo. Now I can't use Zelle. Now I can't use Square. Now I can't use PayPal. Now what? Now I can't even go on the internet and sell something to make me some money. Because remember, they just froze my bank accounts. So I have no access to my money. So let's say I had $10 million in the bank. Now I can't access my $10 million. Effectively, I have $0. But I have an audience that I can access through social media. Oop, not anymore, because I just got kicked off social media. So now I can't go to social media and talk to my audience. Maybe now I can send an email out to my audience, the people on my email list, and I can sell them a product and they can pay for the product through my Cash App or through my Square or through my Apple Pay. So now I can have some cash and I can pay my lawyers. But if I can't use Apple Pay or Cash App or Square anymore because they pressured all those platforms to not let me use them, now I can't even go sell anything to make money, even if there are people who want to buy it. You see what they do? So what they do is put the squeeze on you. This is what all this is. They go to businesses and put the pressure on them to not let you do business with them so you can't do anything. And if you all think that this is just some random thing that I'm making up, some imagination thing, no. Go listen to the guy, the bald-headed guy whose initials are AT that I'm talking about here. This is exactly what they did to him. He got kicked off all these platforms, could not use other platforms. I even heard him say this. He said he got an email from like Airbnb that said you can never use you're banned from Airbnb. Because I never even used Airbnb, but they banned me from an app that I never used in my life. And this is what they'll do. And y'all think that this is just some random thing. This is what they do. And the next thing, I already talked about this, is that they coordinate. Thank you for the gifts over there on TikTok. Those of y'all who are sending them, I see you. So they coordinate with the media. I already kind of touched on this, but next thing is they coordinate with the media to just stain your name and your reputation. So now you look bad. So now they go to the media and they have the media keep putting out news stories all at the same time that you're a terrible guy. So any of you who's ever gone on the internet or Google and you see a whole bunch of news stories all saying the same negative things about the same negative person all at the same time, if any of you thinks that they are all just reporting the factual news, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell to you. All right, I got some beachfront property in Arizona to sell to you. And you must think the Santa Claus is real. And yes, I know I got the Santa Claus hat on. You must think Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny are real. You think that is all just logically, factually happening at the same time. That is coordinated. It is a game plan that everybody comes out with a story all at the same time, all on the same day, all saying the same thing. Donald Trump tried to overthrow the government. Right. He tried to overthrow the government with a bunch of people who had no weapons on one day with everybody watching. He tried to overthrow the government. Correct. Right. Even though he's the president. How is he? It doesn't even make any sense. But they all came out with the same story at the same time. And understand I'm using Trump here just as an example because he's the most visible person and all of you know who he is. But there are many other examples of them doing this. Anytime, if you remember the virus from a couple of years ago, you notice how everybody was coming out saying the same stuff all at the same time? Everybody in the mainstream media, they were all coming out saying the same things all at the same time on the same day, the same angle, the same slant. Every journalist, quote unquote, these people are not journalists, but they were all reporting the same thing, quote unquote, reporting the same thing. This is coordinated. They are told what to do. This is the reason why journalism is dying, and the reason why the mainstream media is no longer trusted, because we can see through the bullshit now. 10 years ago, we couldn't tell, and you didn't have people like me who had platforms to explain this. Now we all understand it. Now we all see that they're all just putting out the same news story all at the same time because they're all told what to do. So you can't be a journalist if someone's telling you what to write. That's the antithesis of journalism. The point of journalism is to get to the truth, regardless of what it is and regardless of where it may lead. That's the point of journalism. Nobody's doing that anymore. What these people are doing is what their bosses tell them to do. That's not journalism. That's called public relations. Public relations is if your boss says, hey, we got to put out positive stories about that jab, and you got to tell everybody to take the jab. And if you're not taking the jab, you're a bad person. And if you don't do that, you're fired from your job. If you need to keep that job, then you're going to do what the job tells you to do. That's what they're doing now. That's what the mainstream media does these days. And this is all coordinated. So next time, again, you see a whole bunch of the same stories saying the same thing about the same person, place, thing, situation, etc. Do not think that it must be true because everybody's saying it. That's what we call the bandwagon logical fallacy. Bandwagon logical fallacy is your belief that something must be true because everybody's saying it, or something must be wrong because everybody's against it, or something must be accepted because everybody agrees with it. No, that's bullshit. All right, that is a failure in logic. Next time you see everybody agreeing with the same thing all at the same time, understanding that most people are average and most people do not think for themselves and most people are mentally and emotionally lazy, it should turn your radars up to have you asking yourself, if all these people who are generally average are all thinking the same thing, what is it that I'm not paying attention to here? What am I told to not pay attention to right now? What should I be noticing since all of them think this? What's the opposite of this? And where's the truth? Where's the truth? It's somewhere in between these 2 points. That's what it should do the next time you hear everybody saying the same thing all at the same time. So be very careful. The media is not to be trusted anymore. And again, most of you have come to understand this. This has been the case for 10 years, but some of you are just now getting here. You're just now arriving to this conclusion. Welcome. Better late than never. But this is what they do. And this is another part of lawfare, is that they get your reputation slandered. Next, here's the next thing they do. Now they slandered your reputation. They froze all your physical assets. They trashed your name. They charge you with a crime that may not even be based in anything whatsoever because you pissed them off. Here's the next thing they do. They go to your friends, your family, and anybody you ever dealt with and tries to get them to cooperate against you under the threat of penalty. Let me say that one again. It's a long sentence. Next thing they do is they pressure your friends. They go to your friends, people who you know personally. They go to people who you have worked with in the past, your customers, your clients, your business colleagues, your business connections, your political connections, if you have any. They go to your family members. They go to anyone you've ever dealt with and asks them to cooperate against you under threat of penalty. In other words, what they say, they go to, let's just say you're a man and you got some sexual charge against you. They usually do this to men, as some type of sexual thing. They go to women that they know you've dealt with in the past, and they ask that woman, have you ever done anything wrong to them? Have you ever been abusive? Have you ever hit them? Have you ever assaulted them? Have you ever done anything negative? And they are basically trying to draw that out of the woman. And if that woman offers any inclination that you have, they're going to use that as more evidence against you. And guess what? That's going to be on the news tomorrow. Miraculously, the news is going to find out about it tomorrow, even though it's supposed to be a private conversation between you and the authorities. This is what they do. And they'll also say to them, if they believe they have something on that person, they'll say, hey, if you don't give us something on him, we got something on you. So if you don't give us some information to help us bury this guy who's under attack from the lawfare, we're going to take the fact that you won't help us, and we're going to take what we got on you and use that against you, and we're going to send you to jail. This is what they do. This is the pressure tactic. Even if it's bullshit, even if they're lying, they'll do this. And they can sit there and lie to you in an interrogation, by the way. This is why anytime you are confronted by police officers, you have the right to remain silent. Let me remind you all of that. Let me say it one more time. Anytime you are confronted by police officers or any person in authority, you have the right to remain silent. Do not go having full-on conversations with authorities without a lawyer present, because they will manipulate you. They are trained to do this. Everybody heard that? Okay. If you don't have a number on a lawyer, get one, so that if anytime you're approached by an authority, you can let them know, hey, I'm going to exercise my right to remain silent. I'm not answering any questions. If I'm not under arrest, I'm not talking to you. And you have the right to say that to them. They're not going to tell you have the right to say that to them, but you need to know your rights so that you can say that to them. And don't have a conversation until you have a lawyer present, and a lawyer will tell you. Actually, as soon as a lawyer walks in a room, they know that they can't do their bullshit anymore, and they usually go away. That's usually the experience. So anyway, what they do is they pressure the people around you, anybody who's ever been around you, to try to get some shit on you and get those people to turn on you. Now, here's the question for you. If you had lawfare against you, so let's just go through what we talked about so far. All right, you have been, somehow you got a message that has spread far and wide, and everybody's connecting the message to your name. So you piss some people off. They create some type of charge against you and say that you're a bad person. They've frozen all your physical assets, so you don't have access to your money or your computers or any of that stuff. You can't get on the internet and talk to your audience and clear your name because they just kicked you off all the social media platforms. The media is trashing your name every chance they get. So anyone who looks up your name is going to see you getting trashed. Then they go to your friends and family and they say, hey, give us some dirt on this person, or we may have some dirt that we're going to use against you. Here's my question to you. How many of your friends, family, business colleagues, and associates would not flip on you? How many people in your world that you deal with on a consistent basis would stand strong, even with the authority saying to them, hey, if you don't help us, we got something on you? How solid are the people around you? This is an important question. And how many people do you have around you who know things about your business, your intimate business, that you don't think you could trust them under pressure? If you have people who fit that description, I suggest you start trimming your circle. And if you look around and you're not sure you have anyone around you who would not flip on you, even while they have the pressure on them from the authorities, you need to be looking at your associations. All of associations, you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. Who are you dealing with? How many of them would stand silent while being pressured? You should know. You should be thinking about this. You'd be looking at everybody around you and asking yourself, who would stand silent? And also you should ask yourself, how many people know your business enough that if they did start talking and they start talking out of turn and talking reckless about things they know about you, how much of your business will end up in the street? How many people know your business, and how many people need to know your business? Shouldn't be that many people. Everybody following me here. Number of people who know the intimate details of your business, you should be able to count them on one hand. It shouldn't be that many people who know your business. And those people that you can count on one hand, they should be the type of people you can trust to stay quiet, and or you can coach them and tell them, hey, if this happens, here's what you do. If this happens, call this number. If this happens, you say this and don't say anything else. If you don't have people around you if you have people around you who know your business who couldn't follow that and wouldn't do that, then you need to be looking at your circle. Because again, they can do this to you. Don't think that this can't expand. I think right now we got a 4-year in the United States. You got a 4-year respite because Trump has become president. But had he not won, it would have got crazy right now. But after this term, after these next 4 years, it's going to get crazy again. I don't know. It depends on who wins in 2028, of course, but it ain't going to be Trump. He's out. He's going to be gone. He did his 2 terms. If the Democrats take control again, you all better be watching out, especially if you're out here saying anything positive about the Republicans or Trump or MAGA or anything like that. You think they're not going to come back with a vengeance in 2028. You got another thing coming. So again, don't think this is just for entertainment purposes. Keep all this in mind, folks. Now let's move on. 7th point of this is all of these things that I just told you about. All of this has happened before you have even been found guilty of a crime. You haven't even gone to trial yet. There may not even be a trial. So that bald-headed guy who got kicked off all the social media, AT, know that he never even went to trial? Y'all know that? There was no trial, but all these things happened. Everything I just told you happened to him. All these things happened to Trump. Trump had trials, but all these things happened and he didn't even go to trial. There was no court case. He never appeared in front of a jury. And all of these things happen before any of that stuff. Are y'all understanding how this stuff works? Now, again, and my eighth point is the question that I just asked you a minute ago. How many people do you know who could survive all of this? So I was asking about your associates, but even just going back to yourself, how many people do you know who could survive all of this? How many of you would know how to move in a situation like this? How many of you would even have somebody to call in a situation like this? Again, you can't get on social media, so you can't do a live stream to explain yourself. You can't sell anything because you can't use any of the payment processors. Are they coming after all your friends and family now who are scared to take your phone calls because they don't know what to say? The media is trashing you. They have a charge against you. Anybody who knows your name, anybody who Googles you is going to see negative shit about you. What do you do? What are you going to do in this situation? Many of you would go crazy. I think most human beings would just go crazy in this situation. You wouldn't know what to do because where are you going to turn? They basically are boxing you in. That's the whole point of lawfare. They want to box you in to the point that you feel like you have no other options. That's the whole point. Because these people who I'm mentioning, they're famous people. So they got a whole bunch of fans. At least they have fans who are defending them on social media, even though they can't use social media. You notice that whole time period when Donald Trump was banned from social media, people were still talking about Donald Trump on social media. Now, what about you? If you're not a known person, but they're doing this to you, you ain't got anybody on social media talking about you because nobody knows who you are. What are you going to do? At least he has some fans talking about him. And the other guy, he has some fans talking about him. Russell Brand has fans talking about him. Who's going to be talking about you? If you're a nobody, you're suffering through all this in complete silence and nobody's talking about it. Again, you still got to suffer. Donald Trump still had to go through some stuff. He still had to go to court. He still had to deal with lawyers. He still had to pay his lawyers. He still had to deal with all the shit that he had to deal with. And these other folks, they still had to deal with all the shit. But at least they had fans. They could look up and see, oh, look at all these fans talking good about me. That was something. What about you if you don't have fans? All of this happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you go against the grain of what has been labeled the matrix. When you go against the grain, you get attacked. During the virus a few years ago, there were doctors who went on, let's just say the Joe Rogan podcast. He had a lot of doctors on that show who came on, doctors, scientists, etc., who came on that show and said, hey, I do not trust this jab, and here are the reasons why. And they gave their arguments for why. Now, of course, there were doctors out there who said, I do trust the jab, and here are the reasons why. And that's the way it's supposed to be. The medical world should be a back and forth. It's kind of like playing tennis, conversation between people who agree with something and people who disagree with that same thing. And they go back and forth and they exchange. Hey, here's why I think what I think. Here's why I think what I think. And they go back and forth and we argue over what's right and what's wrong. And I say we, I'm not in the medical space, but I mean the people. That's what they should be doing, because science is an ongoing, ever evolving thing. It's not like a set in stone thing like mathematics. Math is set in stone. 2 + 2 is always 4. All right, that's set in stone. But science is always evolving because we're always learning new things, and things change, and life changes, and biology changes, and all of these things. But these doctors and scientists and medical folks who went on the Joe Rogan show and spoke out against the jab, what happened to a lot of them? A lot of you, many of you know, many of them were stripped of their certifications. Many of them were kicked out of the programs they were a part of. They were basically just disassociated from whatever groups they were a part of because they had the audacity to come out and speak out against basically the pharmaceutical industry, which is really what ran the jab that happened a few years ago. The jab that came out a few years ago was not based in quote unquote science or medicine or any individual person. It was because the pharmaceutical companies who make a whole lot of money every year, and they made money every time somebody was administered that shot, including all the boosters. They were spending money with the mainstream media to make sure that the narrative stayed the narrative. If you didn't know, now you know. That's what they were doing. They paid money for that. 80% of the money that when you watch TV or even the internet, you watch videos on the internet, you see the ads come on, 80% of the money that gets spent on those ads are spent by pharmaceutical companies selling some form of drug. And I'm not just talking about the jab, all kinds of drugs. I keep seeing this ad for, what's the drug called? Skyrizi. You ever heard of this drug, Skyrizi? I don't even know what it is, but I've had the ad come on when I'm listening to a YouTube video so many times that I now know the name of the drug because it keeps coming on, damn, interrupting whatever I'm listening to. Skyrizi. I think it's for women. That's the only thing that I've gotten. And you know anything about the Skyrizi thing? What is that drug? Who is it for? What does it do? I don't even know. I just know the name of it because I keep hearing that damn ad. The point is pharmaceutical industry, 80% of the money that is made in advertising, period, in multimedia, when we're talking video and TV, is paid for by pharmaceutical companies. CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ESPN, Fox, they make the majority of their money from pharmaceutical companies. And did y'all hear what RFKJ just said the other day? Brittany, what's going on? Good morning. You hear what RFKJ he mentioned. Now, if this is actually going to happen, we don't know. What RFKJ said was that he wants to try to ban pharmaceutical companies from advertising in media. Now, let me tell you something. If he actually tries to do this, now he's just talking. Of course, in politics, you throw things out there like that just to as a tester, just to see how people respond to it. If he actually tries to do this, they're going to try to take him out. They're going to try to take him out. Now, why do I believe that? Why would they respond that way to something like stopping ads on pharmacy? Because if the pharmaceutical industry can't run ads the way that they do, they are not going to make, first of all, they're not going to be making the same money. And a lot of people are going to lose their jobs and careers. Secondly, the media companies that make the bulk of their money from big pharma advertising, they are going to lose their jobs and careers because they're going to have to fire a whole bunch of people because they won't have the money. Imagine taking a company like ESPN or Disney, who owns them, ABC and ESPN. What if you took 80% of their money and took it away? That comes in every year. 80% of their money gone. Okay, then 80% of people got to get fired. Again, that's going to change, and that would change the entire landscape of media, period. It would change the landscape of the way drugs and the medical industry works in the United States. And as I've said in the past, if you come to disrupt a big industry that's doing very successfully a certain thing, thank you, Linda, for those lightning bolts, they're not going to sit there and just let you do it. They're going to fight. They're going to try to take RFKJ out if he tries this. Especially with Donald Trump behind him, they're going to try to take him out. They're not going to just let that happen. But if it happens, that would change a whole lot of things. And I wouldn't know what Skyrizi was. I wouldn't know what, I might know Viagra because Viagra somehow just got into the mainstream. But all these drugs that I end up knowing the names of, not because I take any. I don't take any kind of drugs or medicines or anything. I don't even take Advil. But you come to know these things because the ads keep coming on. And they spend so much money on it because they make all the money on the back end. So when you were hearing about why all the positive reasons why you should take the jab several years ago, it is not because of the positive effects of the jab. And I'm not saying you were wrong for taking it. It was because the pharmaceutical industry spends a lot of money on media advertising, and all they did was make a phone call to the media companies that they spend a lot of money with, and they said, hey, you all know how much money we spend with you all every year. You better make sure everything you put out about this jab is a positive story. We don't want to hear anybody questioning or challenging the jab at all. And if somebody does, y'all better make an immediate call to that person and tell them they better get in line if they want to keep their job. That's all the pharmaceutical industry did, and it worked. And then everybody just followed what they said. All of this happens, folks, when you go against the grain. When you go against the grain, they will come after you. And specifically, this happens when you are a minority going against the grain. If everyone who believe the same thing you believe would say it out loud, then it'd be too many people. They can't use lawfare against you. Only reason lawfare works because we got a lot of cowards in society. It works because we have cowards. All right. The reason why they were able to use lawfare against the January 6 people is because there was enough people there on January 6 that they could go after them, but not so many that they didn't say, damn, it's too many. See, how many people were there on January 6th? Let me find out. See if we can find out how many people were in DC. Because it'll make a bigger point. How many people came to Donald Trump's rally on January 6, 2021 in Washington, D.C.? I'm asking this question of ChatGPT. Let's see if we can find out how many people were there. So estimates of the crowd size vary. No official number is available. So nobody knows how many people were. So they won't even answer the question. So let's just say it was 100,000 people there on January 6th. Let's just say it was 100,000 people there. Maybe it was 50,000, maybe it was 20,000, whatever it was. If it had been 80 million, like every single person who voted for Donald Trump had showed up in DC on January 6th, then they wouldn't have been able to do what they did to the people who ended up in court. They couldn't do it because there'd be too many people. When it's a small enough number that they can go after people individually and attack them, then that happens. And y'all know, and again, I'm going to do a whole live on January 6th, literally on January 6th, 2025, that after that day, do y'all know how a lot of the people got caught Any of y'all know? How a lot of the people who were charged on January 6th, do you know how the government ended up finding these people? They didn't find them because they looked on the tape and said, oh, that's Mike, that's Jason, that's Lisa. That's not what they did. They put the footage out on the internet and they said, anybody who can identify anyone in these videos, please let us know. And it was individual citizens. I'm going to guess a bunch of them Trump haters or anti-MAGA folks who were ratting out the people who were in DC on January 6th. That's how they found it. Yeah, you got geo tracking as well, Brittany. That's also true. The geo tracking of they went through everybody whose phones was in DC at the Capitol on January 6th, but also because citizens were telling on them. I told y'all the police don't have to work anymore to do investigations. All they got to do is wait for somebody to snitch, and people telling on themselves. So of course they could see people who were posting, "Hey, I'm in DC, it's January 6th, et cetera, because you were excited to support Trump." And then you had people who didn't like Trump, whether Republican or Democrat. They saw their next door neighbor or their ex-wife or their former coworker there on the video, and they said, "Hey, FBI, that's Mike Johnson. I used to work with him. He lives over here." And that's how they start finding people, because the everyday citizens were telling them. Now, again, I'm not saying that if you did this, you need to flip and become a Donald Trump supporter. What I'm saying is, even if I hated Donald Trump, if I saw someone who was a supporter of Trump on video during the January 6th thing, there's no way I'm calling the FBI and saying, "Hey, FBI, here he is right there. This is his name. This is where he used to work. Here's the town that I believe he lives in." I would never do that. Why? Because the government is not working for me. The government doesn't work for me, so I'm not working for them. I'm not working for the government. Why would you go work for the government and help them put a everyday citizen into a legal situation? Why? Just because you don't like Donald Trump? What is that going to do for you? I question the character of the people who were trying to rat these people out. I understand it's human nature. If, let's say, it's your ex-husband and you really hate him because he ain't been paying child support, so you went and ratted him out to the government to get him in trouble. Well, what is that really doing for you? I get emotionally it might make you feel good for a minute, but what does it really do? It doesn't do anything. And so what you did is go and help the government get a legal citizen behind some lawfare. What is that doing? Who's it helping, and how is it serving you? So I'm just not a fan of any of that. And this is how a lot of people from January 6th got caught. They got ratted out by everyday people. In case any of you didn't know, that's what happened. And when it comes to citizens and the government, if I got an issue with the citizens, like even if I'm on this side and there's a bunch of people on that side and the adversary is the government, I'm not telling on any citizen, because what's the government doing? What is the government going to do to help me out, even if I do tell? When I get a $500 reward for, I want your $500. I'm not doing it. And I'm saying all that to say that this lawfare thing, folks, don't think that because you're on one side politically that it can't happen to you. Just because you're a Democrat or just because you're a Republican, it can't happen to you. It can happen to you. And if these things did happen to you, the question is, what would you do? Let me recap these points, then we'll take questions. So lawfare. Number one, you piss people off, the wrong people. Number two, they create a charge against you. Not they levy a charge. They create a charge. They go make one. They don't have a story. They make one. Number three, they go raid your home. They take all your assets. They freeze your bank account so you don't have physical assets. Number four, they go to your businesses and they pressure the businesses to cancel you, like social media, like all the places where you can collect money, like the banks. Number five, they coordinate with the media to stain your name and trash your reputation. So now nobody wants to stand next to you. Number six, they pressure your friends, family, and acquaintances to give up dirt on you, even if there is no dirt. Number seven, all this has happened before you have been found guilty of anything. You haven't even been to court yet. Number eight, how many people do you know who can survive this? And number nine, this is what happens when you go against the matrix. When everybody else is too cowardly to point out the bullshit and you're one of the outliers who's willing to point out the bullshit, they will come after you for being one who was willing to say something. Not because of what you think, because everybody thinks it, but because you're the one who said it out loud. You get attacked. This is the reason why we have so many cowards in society today, because people can see this, that if I say something, I might get attacked. So I'm going to think it, but I'm not going to say it. And then when somebody else says it, I'm just going to watch them and not say anything. See, if everybody said it, then they can't go after everybody. But if only two people are saying it, they go after those two people. So this is the challenge with lawfare, is that as soon as you step up and actually start talking about things that you believe, you are placing a bet that other people are going to agree with you and say it out loud. Now, if they only agree quietly, then again, you become the target. And those people, again, they become known names because they were willing to stand up. All that said, let me take questions. O-Dog on YouTube said, I'm not opposed to Kennedy trying to do that, but people had to decide not to be affected by advertising. I see drug commercials all the time and I don't use them. Well, yeah, I see the commercials all the time too. But advertising works. That's the reason why people advertise. That's the reason why advertising is as popular as it is, because it works. So always training. Usually everybody will flip for the right price or consequence, even parents expect the unexpected. Generally, that's correct. Yes, people will generally, if you have a consequence in front of them or the right price, people will flip on you. That's why you got to be careful about your associations. Over on TikTok, Sybil said, it was at this moment you lost my follow. I don't know what I said that lost your follow, Sybil, but see you later. Trust the system said, you already know Donald is a bad guy. Yeah, of course. All right, I'm taking questions on TikTok. So you got something, go ahead and post it. I scrolled up and I'm scrolling through. So it'd be best if you're leaving a comment on TikTok to give me context, to tell me what you're responding to, because some of y'all are responding to stuff I don't know what you're responding to, because you posted it when I said it, but I'm reading it out of the order from when you posted it. So Given said, what about the Democrat, including the one in charge who's hurting themselves? I don't know what you mean by that. Crossroad Demon. Has anyone gotten the final decision on the NYC subway rider? No, I haven't. People are still gathering information. We don't know. T. Charles said Obama was in control, serving his third term of socialist divide and conquer. Some people say that. Someone said, Crossroads said, what was the final number? Number of what? Given said, what if that person who said that would have been heard? I don't know what you're talking about. Pick said, write the story. BS, you are spewing. Donald was the one who did this, and the folks who showed with weapon. There were no weapons on January 6th. Giving God says, so you're saying keep things going the way they're going. No, so you're saying is a tell for a straw man, and then you went and did the straw man. Please don't paraphrase the things that I'm saying into your own language. I'm better at it than you. So you're saying is not necessary when you're talking to me, because I'm usually very clear and direct in exactly what I'm saying. So if you had to rephrase it, then you just made my statement worse. That's what we call a straw man. All right, let's see. Lori said, my son had a dream he won 3 times. All right, fair enough. Lori said, have I seen Amy Nelson? I don't know who that is. Amazon weapons the DOJ against her and her husband. I can imagine it. I don't know who that is, but Lori, I believe that happens. That happens all the time. And most of these people are not known people. So I don't know who Amy Nelson is, but I believe that's a true story, what you're talking about. They do it all the time. And most of the people who get lawfare used against them are not famous. So most of us don't know their names. That's the problem. Cooper Lore 6 said, are you a lawyer? So there it is. I think we got to come up with some type of celebration. Brittany, you tell me what you think. We got to come up with some type of celebration or something every time somebody asks me if I'm a lawyer. I am not a lawyer, but I do play one on the internet. But we got to come up with something. So back in the day when I was a kid, they used to have this TV show called Pee Wee Herman. You remember Pee Wee Herman? It was called Pee Wee's Playhouse. And he would have the word of the day. I think that's what it was, the word of the day. And anytime somebody said the word of the day, everybody would celebrate. And there would be this big celebration because somebody said the word of the day. So we got to come up with something like that. This is going to be like Dre Baldwin's Playhouse. Anytime somebody asks me if I'm a lawyer, we got to have some kind of celebration that we do when somebody asks if I'm a lawyer, because I get asked this every day. Maybe I should become a lawyer, because people keep asking me if I'm a lawyer. So maybe I should just become one so I can say yes. I'm joking. I would never go back. I would never go back to school for it to learn anything. But I'm good enough at what I'm doing that people think I'm a lawyer. So maybe I should just say I'm a lawyer. And I should just start collecting retainer fees from people. Yes, I'm a lawyer. $5,000 retainer. Send it to my Cash App. All right. Napolitano said, how is that legal? I don't know what part you're talking about, but it doesn't matter. All right. The people in charge are doing stuff. They make the rules. So it doesn't matter if it's legal. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Shout out to Brittany, my moderator here. Thank you for getting me to 5K likes. Let's get to 10K now. Now we're at 8.7. Let's get to 10,000 likes, folks. Please like the stream if you are watching. Linda said, that's why you always have a backup plan with a friend that has some of your money to back you to hire one. Yes, exactly. Or have your money in multiple places that it can't be traced to you. That's correct. When it said our system emasculated our men, that you used a double de-emasculated would be the opposite. So it's just masculated without the D. But I get what you're saying, Linda. Brittany said that's overreach. Yeah, of course it's overreach. But if you're the ones in charge, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's overreach. You can do what you want. Chinese, I got to be careful saying these words. That's exactly what they try to do to Trump. And I'm so glad he exposed them. Yes, he did expose them. He did do that. I'm hoping all of this changes under the new administration. A good amount of it will change. The challenge with it is, Brittany, is that this administration only gets 4 years. Then there's going to be somebody else all over again. That's the challenge. It's not like Trump's going to be around forever. And he's like 70-something years old. He ain't going to be around forever in both ways. So Starr said, right, he wasn't charged with anything they claim he did. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. But they destroyed his reputation solidly enough that a lot of people will never say anything positive about him ever again, just because of the charge. They didn't even prove anything. That's the whole point. Someone said, hence Mike Pence. Yes, Mike Pence is a good example. Starr said, cops are allowed to lie. Yes, they are. Cops can lie to you in an interrogation, folks. Do not speak to police if you're not a lawyer, and if you don't have a lawyer present, do not talk to police. They start asking you questions. They are trained to manipulate you. So you tell them, hey, officer, I'm going to exercise my right to remain silent. If I'm under arrest, arrest me. But other than that, ain't nothing to talk about here. That's what you say to a police officer. Say it in your own language, but that's essentially what you said. Do not talk to police. Brittany said, I've been seeing so many videos on TikTok with police abusing their power and not knowing the law. Yeah, of course, because people don't know. A lot of people don't understand that they don't have to talk to police. And then they go talking to cops, and cops go use the shit that you say against you, and they create a charge against you because you didn't know how to be quiet. So that absolutely happens. Sugar said, only one, my mama. That's what's up. So Brittany said, it's so important that we plead the fifth and request a lawyer. Yes, exactly. Or if you have, I got this service called Legal Shield. Some of y'all heard of it, or prepaid legal, where you get a lawyer on the phone right there on the spot. And you can tell the cop, listen, if you're detaining me, let me call my lawyer. And you got the number right there on your phone. You can call your lawyer, get a lawyer on the phone right there on the spot. Even if it's on the phone, once police understand that you have a lawyer, then they cut the shenanigans because they know they can't get away with it with a lawyer on the line. Because the lawyer won't let the cops get away with the bullshit. But if they're talking to an everyday person who doesn't know shit, they'll use you. King Dan said, got no accident working delivery, laundry. How long do I have to file a workman's compensation case? So why are you asking me that question? I'm not a lawyer, but I do play one on TikTok. All right, let's see. WTF Global News here. Lost my main account. This is my business page. Oh, MAFRG. All right, good to see you. How'd you lose your main account? What happened to your account? And you got the #1 gifter badge already. So congrats to you. Thank you. How'd you lose your account? It's MAFR Mafrog. I guess that's Mafrog. How'd you lose your account? What'd you do? Star says, usually the ones that claim they would never. Yes, that is usually the case. That is 100% correct. Lori said, what do I think about all the drones? I don't know enough about it. It's not enough substance to the story for me to do a live on it. I've heard about it. I hear people talking about it, but there's not anything conclusive we can take from it. Shanita Pack said, you love the hat. Thank you. Star said, hopefully JD runs and wins. Yeah, we'll see. We got 4 years from now. We'll see. Sugar said, relocating name change. Brittany said, my mom is my ride or die. That's what's up. So a few of you saying your moms. Star said he also had to deal with his fake fans that fell for the BS. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Brittany says, somewhere unalived. Yeah. White Coat Summit. Star said the entire C19 was a test. Yes, many people have said that. It was just a test to see how much can they get people to submit and follow whatever they're told. And I believe it was a successful test. I think it proved that people will do what they're told if they are made to be fearful enough and you get enough people in authority saying the same things. But I think it'll be a while before they try it again, simply because of Trump's winning, #1, and #2, the tides have turned. I think COVID was an eye-opener for a lot of people, and this last election cycle was another eye-opener. So right now they got to chill before they do the next thing. Right now they got to chill, but doesn't mean they're going to chill forever. So that's the issue. Linda said no double blind and longitudinal studies. Yeah, I mean they didn't have enough time for all that stuff, and they rushed it. And also, the Trump was president. He was the one. He was pushing it too. So we got to keep that. We got to keep it real on that too. Trump was saying it too. Trump said the same thing Biden said. They all were lying. So Brittany said that would be huge. Most other companies don't. Most other countries don't allow it either. Yeah, no other country allows it. No other country allows just open advertising by pharmaceutical companies. Only the United States. No one else allows it. Brittany said, I think they're 10 steps ahead of them at this point. So I think the threat will already be neutralized. Yeah. Star said, I've never heard of people who have what those needs are forever prescribed them. Well, they're selling it to somebody. All right, somebody's buying that stuff. When it said, I want to hear you sing because you're already singing. I don't know what that means. Brittany said, FDA has considered removing dyes, et cetera, already, and Trump using them. Yeah, because they're going to come after them. So if they do it preemptively on their own, then they might not get attacked as hard. So they're already going to come after them. So they're already just saying, we know what this guy's going to do. So let's just get out ahead of this story before it comes. Brittany said, the masses were united. Lawfare wouldn't work. Correct. They couldn't use lawfare. Rory said 27 undercover FBI. All right. I've heard people talk about that. True. A lot of people are still incarcerated to this very day. Gabe said, your party lost due to your narrative. I don't have a narrative. And what party am I? I don't know which party you're referring to. When I do these lives, I've been accused of being a Democrat. I've been accused of being a Republican. I've been accused of being liberal. I've been accused of being MAGA. So which one do you think I am? Someone said it was the liberal rats. New old was 10K likes here. We already had 12K now, so let's get to 15. I know I'm reading these comments after they already got posted. But let's get to 15K likes over here. Thank you, everybody, for the likes. TikTok therapist says, so breaking the law is okay. All right, straw man. What are you referring to? Linda said, I got burned out working in child welfare. Same. Yeah, I've heard that's a rough job. I know some people who are social workers, or at least they were. Baked Ball said, Obama said they can indict a ham sandwich if they wanted to. Yes, any government can. Any government can indict anybody they want if they want to. If you get on their radar, they can come after you. Ash said, storming the Capitol is very extreme. I would rat out because I love America. I don't care about Trump. No, I wouldn't rat out anybody. Storming the Capitol, it depends on what they did when they stormed the Capitol. They just went in the building. Nobody got, I mean, there were some security guards who got probably smacked up a little bit. But no, I would not rat out anybody. Not for that. Now, if they did something egregious, then that may be a different story, but no. I would not do that. Jeannie says, sounds like, I don't know if I should say that word on here, but I get what you're saying. There's some words you can't say on TikTok. Then when you say them, they immediately give you a little warning. And then if you say it again, they kick you off, but they don't tell you exactly which word it is. So that's why you got to be careful. So any of you wondering why sometimes I talk around certain subjects, that's why. And I've been kicked off here like 3 times in the last 3 months. So this is not a theory. This is real. Bake Boss, yeah, I know that he requested but was denied. Yeah, it's all been in the story. Ash said 9 people who were at or around the Capitol arrested on weapons charges. Well, it depends on what the weapon was and where the charge came from. And just because you get arrested doesn't mean that you actually did the thing that they're charging you with. Those are 2 different things. Nicole said, have a bunch of confetti go off in the background and ask if you're a lawyer. Yeah, we got to come up with something. I don't have any confetti. And if I had confetti, then I would have to clean it up. So we need something that's a little bit cleaner. TikTok said, you never go back to learn anything. Well, I don't go back to school because, first of all, you can learn anything you can learn in law school. You can learn on the internet, number one. Doesn't mean you could be a lawyer, but you can learn it on the internet, number one. Number two, I'm not a fan of the educational system in America, period. And number 3, I don't actually want to be a lawyer. I'm not laughing when I'm saying these things, but I was joking about actually being a lawyer. That's not happening. Bearded at birth. So you got the perfect live for a long drive. Much love, bro. Well, thank you. Now, shout out to people listening to me while you're driving. Sean Union, Merry Christmas to you. Sean got the number 2 gifter badge. Congrats. Thank you for the rose. Let's see. Linda said, I can't believe how many people don't know that you do not have to open the door unless they have a warrant. That's correct. Now, that doesn't mean they won't stand there and wait till you open the door, but you don't have to open the door. Yeah, so I think the best thing everybody needs to do is make sure you have a lawyer that you can call. Yeah, you can get Legal Shield for less than $100 a month, less than $50 a month, and be able to get a lawyer on the phone immediately. But you should have access to a lawyer. Mark Mann says, good morning, counselor. Thank you. I hope that's a compliment. Thank you. Marky Man said, with that hat on, you look more like a judge. All right, yeah, judge is better than lawyers. Yeah, so maybe I should start telling people I'm a judge. Paul G got the number 3 gifter badge. Congrats. Linda said, you said if we make your goal, you will sing a song, but you are already singing about injustice. When did I say that? I don't recall ever saying. I don't recall ever saying anything about singing a song. I don't know where you heard that. Whose live you were listening to? It wasn't mine. All right, a couple more questions. Bearded at Birth says, what is your book about? I have multiple books. So I have books about playing basketball overseas. I got books about discipline, about confidence, about mental toughness, about personal initiative, about starting businesses, about selling. From what you can see on the screen, we got the Work on Your Game system manual. That's where I lay out the entire system of Work on Your Game. The book titled Work on Your Game is just about the Work on Your Game philosophy and how it came to be. Buy a Game is my very first book. This is my book about my early beginnings in basketball up through college. Overseas Basketball Blueprint is about how to play basketball professionally overseas. Dre Philosophy Volume 0, that's where I took a bunch of my writings over the course of maybe 3 years and put them all in one book. The book is about 800 pages long. The Third Day is all about how to show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. Ask Yourself a Better Question is about exactly what it says, changing certain questions, disempowering questions and empowering questions. And this is the Mandarin version of Work on Your Game. So we got the book printed and sold out in a country that starts with the letter C that I'm not going to say. And that's the Mandarin version of the book. And I just got my publisher to send it to me. That book is literally written in Mandarin. So I like the cover. I didn't design this cover. They just designed this and sent it to me. So as you can see how it's all written in Mandarin. So this is the Mandarin version of the book. So the way Mandarin is read is like this. So that's just a few of mine. I got 35 books. So, oh, Linda says the goal says that. I did not know that. So we gotta fix the goal. I didn't know that. But thank you for helping me reach the goal. Everybody who's on here, but I didn't know it said I was going to sing a song. Somebody lied. I didn't put that in there, so I don't know how that got there. So anyway, everybody, I do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. I appreciate those of y'all who are in here. A lot of people are on vacation this week, so next week, actually, people will probably still be on vacation through the 1st. So it'll probably be another week before everybody's back to work, but I'm going to be doing these lives as usual. Tomorrow's Friday. I'll be here. Then it's Monday through Friday. So we got Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday is New Year's Day. I will do a live, but it'll probably be later in the day because the gym is not going to open till the same time that I start my lives. The gym's probably going to open at 8, and I'll probably be there when it opens. So then I'll push the live back. But then Thursday, I think everybody goes back to work. Like everybody's back at work on their normal schedule. I'll be doing 8 a.m. normally, but Thursday, I think everybody will be back, but I'll be doing lives moving forward as usual. So what we're going to talk about in the future, I'm going to talk about homeschooling. That's one of the topics I have in here, homeschooling. I'm going to talk about people who I follow for news, like platforms that I listen to. I'm going to talk about hip hop culture, quote unquote culture. We're going to talk about toxic masculinity, toxic femininity. We're going to talk about all those things. So all of that is possibly coming. We're going to talk about the middle class curse. We're going to talk about corporate greed. And these are all tongue in cheek, but I'm going to talk about what they mean. I'm going to talk about why college is a scam. I'm going to tell you, we already did gratuity. I did that one yesterday. We might talk about logical fallacies, because people sometimes use them when they disagree with me in the comments. We might talk about liberal versus conservative. I got a lot of stuff. I got plenty of content. So usually some form of, what's the word? Some form of social current event that I usually talk about in these lives. So let me see what else we got. I'm a teacher, so I'm off till January 6th. All right, perfect. So January 6th, I'm going to be talking about January 6th. So that's a Monday, right? Yeah, I think that's the Monday after New Year's. So shout out to the teachers who got off till January 6th. You all got a good 2 weeks. Bake Ball said, how about tariffs? It ain't not enough material for me to talk about it yet. We'll see. and we'll see what he actually does with the tariffs. We'll see if it actually happens as well. But not enough material for me to talk about it. Brittany said you return to work on the 6th. Oh, so a bunch of y'all got a whole 2 weeks off. Shout out to everybody who got 2 weeks off. I didn't know y'all got that much time off. Shout out to everybody with all that time off. All right, thank you, Coco. At a public high school that is very strict and conservative is awesome. Oh, y'all are few and far between, I would guess. I'm a city guy though, so I'm guessing, Lori, where you at? Are you in a big city? In the cities, I don't see that happening as much, but it might be in a city that, I mean, there are some, but as I would say, again, few and far between when you have those. So Chris said, I'm luck. I ain't got any time off. Right. Lori said, country, Gaffney, South Carolina. Okay, it makes sense. In big cities, you don't see that. What you just described there, I don't see those in big cities, but I'm a city guy. But there's a lot of people who don't live in cities in America, and people tend to forget about them until every 4 years we have an election. Then people realize, oh, everybody does not think the same way. Bearded at Birth said, I have to go start working now. All right, appreciate you. Thank you for coming in. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap this one up right here. We will be back tomorrow. The topic, I might talk about homeschooling tomorrow, pending, because since these are current events, if something happens today, then that might become the topic tomorrow. But if nothing happens today that is worthy of me talking about it, then I might talk about homeschooling tomorrow, why I'm going to homeschool my kids and how I feel about the concept, because the opinions are divided on that. So we will be back here tomorrow. Make sure you follow me. If you're watching me on TikTok, where I have my biggest live streaming audience, make sure you follow me on Instagram and YouTube. The links to both of those are in my bio. So go to my bio on TikTok and you'll see a link for my YouTube and my Instagram. Subscribe to my YouTube, subscribe to my Instagram as well, so that if anything ever happens, you can find me on more than one platform. And all my replays, if you missed any of these lives and you want to see it again, or you want to catch one that you didn't see, they're all on YouTube. I'm on YouTube right now over here. So I'm live right now on YouTube, Rumble, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So I'm looking at more than one camera. TikTok's over here, Instagram's over here, everybody else is over there. So make sure you subscribe to me on more than one platform so that you know where to find me, anything that comes up. So I will see you all tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern. Everybody have a great, those of you on vacation, enjoy your vacation time. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Work on your game. We out here. Thank you, Brittany, again for the moderation as usual. See y'all Friday.